Dear inter students, we are going to start with the summary of chapter number 1. Chapter number 1, which is a comparatively small chapter, very easy chapter, and I would advise you to start your revision studies by this chapter itself. Now, what is chapter number 1? Chapter number 1 is nature, objective, and scope of audit. Nature of auditing, objective of auditing, and scope of audit. Now, this chapter weightage as per ICI is around 4 to 6 percentage. Now, these are the contents which are mainly covered in this chapter. First and foremost, Essay 200. Essay 200, overall objective of independent auditor and conduct of audit in accordance with essays. Now, here they say in essay 200, basically, meaning of auditing. Auditing is an independent examination. And also the nature of auditing, what the audit process all about. Next, about the objective of audit. Primary objective of audit is to express an opinion, giving a reasonable assurance. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but not an absolute assurance nor guarantee. We give assurance on historical financial information, whether prepared as per applicable financial reporting framework. Then, scope of audit. In scope of audit, we cover all the financial aspects of the entity. To do this, we obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, where we see whether financial statements properly discloses the facts. If so, we express the opinion that it shows true and fair view. Now, audit suffers from inherent limitations of audit. Inherent limitations of audit mainly arises because of nature of financial reporting, nature of audit procedures, then because of timeliness of audit, balance between cost and benefit, then audit is not an investigation, and also because future events, which is unpredictable. So all these contents are part of essay 200. So if any question is asked from these points, we can start by saying as per essay 200 and also quote the name, overall objective of independent auditor and conduct of audit in accordance with essay. Now second, the difference between audit and investigation. Audit means it is, independent examination and it is more general, whereas investigation is specific. In audit, we collect prima facie evidence, whereas in investigation, it's like more of conclusive. Audit, we never start with a preconceived notion, whereas in investigation, more or less like a preconceived notions. Then there are, audit has relationship with other disciplines. Just think of your subjects. It has relationship with few subjects, I will say, starting with accounts, law, economics, production, which is costing, financial management, mathematics and science, behavioral science, etc. Now, what are the benefits, purpose, or advantages of audit? Yeah. Once your books of accounts are audited, what are the uses? That is this point. Like it enhances quality of information, moral check on employees. We can check the internal control is effective. We help the government, lenders will rely on it, etc. Then, audit. Is it mandatory? If so, who appoints and to whom we report? Not always audit is mandatory. At times, audit is optional. Mandatory, say for example, for company, bank, insurance, etc. Voluntary in case of sole proprietor, firm, HUS. Appointed generally by the owners. And reporting is given to the appointing authority. There are always exemptions. In case of government company, we are appointed by C and AG. So generally appointed by owners and reporting to appointing authority, there are exemptions. Now regarding the assurance engagement. In assurance engagements, three parties are there. We have the practitioner, who is nothing but the CA. Then you have the responsible party, which is the management. Now we examine the subject matter, which can be the financial statement, it can be the internal control, etc. Now we examine whether the subject matter meets the criteria, which is the benchmark. Say whether financial statement is prepared as per AFRF, whether internal control is operating effectively. Then we obtain sufficient and appropriate evidence and we give the report. Such report is called as the assurance report. When practitioner is engaged to check the subject matter against the criteria which is prepared by the responsible party, for which we obtain sufficient and appropriate evidence and we give the assurance report. Such an engagement is called as the assurance engagement. Now, difference between audit and review. For audit, we have SA, and for review, we have SRE. Through audit, we give reasonable assurance, right? Whereas through review, we give only what assurance? Limited assurance. Now, audit, we do more and extensive procedures, whereas in review, we perform limited or fewer procedures. But both audit as well as review, common thing is we are doing for historical financial information. Audit usually yearly, review generally it is conducted interim, like quarterly. So that's the difference between audit and review. Now, different types of assurance engagements. Different types of assurance engagement. Generally, we have reasonable assurance engagement and we have limited assurance engagements. Reasonable assurance is audit. Limited assurance we give in case of review. In reasonable assurance, we are giving or doing extensive and more procedure, whereas here, as the name itself says, fewer procedure. Here we obtain sufficient and appropriate evidence, whereas here, limited conclusions. So reasonable assurance, we use SA, limited, generally it is SRE. So on top of this, there is something called as absolute, which we don't give in case of audit or review. Usually investigation, we may give a absolute assurance since we are collecting conclusive evidence in investigation. Audit, we collect only prima facie evidence. So that's type of assurance, reasonable, limited, and absolute. Now coming to the last part, which is overview of standards. Guys, there are 5 sets of standard issued by AASB, Auditing Assurance Standard Board of ICI. First set of standard is called as SA. We use SA for audit to give reasonable assurance on historical financial. Second, we have SRE. It is used for review engagement. Through this, we give limited assurance on historical financial statements, but how it is different, limited assurance, and usually it is given for interim. Then you have SAE, it is used for assurance, but here you may give reasonable or limited assurance on other than historical financial, like on internal control, projected. Then we have SRS. In case of SRS, you go for related services, something without giving assurance you are doing, like compilation. You are appointed to compile financial and give a compilation report, or do some procedures without giving any assurance. Now, while doing every work, any work, you should comply with quality control at firm level. So SQC, quality control at the firm level, quality control policies and procedures. So yes, the main aim of this chapter is you'll be familiar with all the basic concepts of auditing, and mainly we will be covering SA 200 and you should be well versed with SA 200. Here we have to understand the concept, especially the different standards on auditing. What are the standards? Yeah, I meant SA, SRE, SAE, SRS, and SQC, and which level and for work, what engagement it is applied. So this is the summary of chapter number 1, which is nothing but nature, objective, and scope of audit. It is comparatively small chapter, 4 to 6% weightage as per ICI, and do it well. So all the best.